I never thought silence could be so loud. The jungle had swallowed me whole. But it wasn't the howling monkeys or the screeching insects that haunted me. It was the silence that followed betrayal. The silence that came after the screams had died out. My name is Sergeant James Jimmy Halston, 32nd Infantry, U.S. Army. The year was 1945, and the war in the Pacific was nearing its brutal crescendo. We'd been dropped into the heart of Borneo, thick, wet, and uncharted. Our mission was simple: sabotage a Japanese communications outpost and extract. But in war, simplicity is a luxury, and trust is a gamble. Things went south fast. We were ambushed perfectly, surgically. It wasn't just the Japanese. Someone knew our route, our timing, even our fallback plan. We were betrayed, and in the chaos, the unit lost half its men. The commander, Captain Lorne, was found shot in the back, not by the enemy, but by a U.S. weapon. I made the mistake of surviving. The men were panicked. Suspicion spread like wildfire, and then it turned to blame. They thought I did it. Maybe because I was quiet. Maybe because I was still standing while better men weren't. Or maybe they needed someone to hang the guilt on. 3 nights after the ambush, they decided they tied my hands. Private Kellner, who used to share his rations with me, now spat at my boots. They were going to shoot me quietly, bury me beneath the ferns. Until HQ, I vanished in the jungle. No trial, no defense. Just a whisper and a bullet. But fate, it seems, had other plans. A sudden artillery shell Japanese struck the clearing, shattering the earth and the moment. The chaos gave me seconds. I rolled, cut the ropes on a jagged rock, and disappeared into the trees. No one followed. The jungle closed behind me like a gate. I wandered for days. The vines clawed at my skin. Leeches fed off me. My boots rotted faster than I could dry them. I drank rainwater off leaves and chewed on roots. I prayed. Weren't poisonous. Hunger gnawed me hollow. But it wasn't just survival. It was the silence. No voices, no orders, no gunfire. Just me. And the memories of what I'd left behind. Then, one night, while shivering beneath a fallen tree trunk, I heard voices, not American, not Japanese. A tribal dialect, curious but cautious. I crept toward the sound. That's when I met Elak. He was no more than 15, spear in hand, eyes sharp with both fear and fascination. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Slowly, I raised my empty hands. He didn't run. Instead, he tilted his head and said a word I would later learn meant ghost. In a way, Elak's village was hidden deep in the interior, unseen by planes, unreachable by maps. They had never heard of America, of war, of Nazis, or Hirohito. To them, I was something between a spirit and a sickness. But Elak believed I was human. He brought me water, then cassava, then fire. Eventually, trust. Weeks passed. They let me stay, though they kept their distance. I learned to fish with nets, to track wild pigs, to navigate the stars above the canopy. I stopped being Sergeant Halston. I became just Yami, and for the first time in years, I stopped dreaming of gunfire. But peace in wartime is fragile. One afternoon, smoke rose near the riverbanks. Japanese troops, maybe 12, had stumbled upon the trail. A scouting party, but well armed. Elak's father, the village chief, wanted to flee. But I knew they wouldn't outrun rifles. I'd buried my weapon after the ambush, swearing never to touch it again. But that night, I dug it up. We laid traps. Crude but deadly, pits with sharpened stakes. Tripwires strung with bamboo spears. The villagers moved like shadows, silent and swift. They didn't fight for flags. They fought for their home. When the soldiers arrived, we were ready. The first fell into a spike pit. The second was taken by a falling net. Panic spread, and soon, they were firing blindly into the trees. I used their confusion, picked up one of their own grenades, and tossed it into the clearing. It was over in less than 10 minutes. 10 minutes. To change everything. After that, I was no longer a guest. I was kin. When the monsoon passed, I knew I had to return. The war wouldn't wait. The army needed to know what had happened to my unit. I had to clear my name, if only for the ghosts that still walked with me. Elak walked with me for 2 days through the jungle. At the riverbank, he stopped. He didn't ask me to stay. He didn't ask me to return. He just handed me a small wooden carving, an owl, his tribe's symbol of silent wisdom, not ghost. He said, "Now, jungle man." I made it to an outpost weeks later, agged, feverish, almost feral, but alive. When I told my story, there were doubters. There always are. But the investigation cleared me. They found the real traitor, Lieutenant Briggs. He'd sold our coordinates for morphine and false promises. He never stood trial. Died in another ambush 2 months later. I didn't feel vindicated, just tired. After the war, I never re-enlisted. I returned to civilian life. Opened a small bookstore in Oregon, but sometimes, when the rain hits the windows just right, and the smell of wet earth rises from the streets, I remember the jungle. I remember Elak. And I remember that in a world at war, survival is not just about bullets or bravery. Sometimes, it's about silence, and those who choose to listen. If this story moved you, or made you pause for just a second, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to The Turning Point. There are more true stories like this waiting to be heard, and maybe, just maybe, one of them is yours. The Turning Point, where true stories touch the soul.